And moving to the African Union summit in Kigali, where African heads of state are expected to sign a historic agreement that establishes the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The long-awaited deal will see 90% of local goods traded within the continent, with the remaining 10% to be reviewed and phased in. Some of the protocols in the agreement include Protocol on Trade in Goods, Protocol on Trade in Services, and the Protocol on Dispute Settlement. The AFCFTA will improve the regulatory framework of trade in Africa. Well, CGTN's Uche Okoronkwo is following the developments from that summit in Kigali. Uche, so what's the latest on the launch of the Continental Free Trade Area? What do you know?
Thanks, Beatrice. Well, today is essentially D-Day. We've seen a number of presidents arriving this morning, including Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, African leaders are expected to sign the Africa Continental Free Trade Area into force today. The day did start off with a closed session between member states, the different AU organs, as well as the AFCB and the UN Economic Commission for Africa. And the session basically saw participants adopt the draft agenda and the draft program, and they also considered the legal instruments that will make up the rule-based system that will guide the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We also saw draft decisions on the declaration of the AFCFTA. Now, they kicked off with speeches from President Kagame, Musa Faki Isufu, who, of course, is the president of Niger, and he is also the champion or the leader of the process. And they basically highlighted the benefits and continue to encourage presidents to sign that deal.
Uche, the African Union has been talking about the Continental Free Trade Area since 2012. So now the FTA, if fully implemented, will be a game changer in how trade is conducted in Africa, because trade within Africa is still quite low. What are the key highlights, though, of the pact?
Well, we know that this CFTA will become the largest free trade area globally once it does come into force. It is expected to increase intra-African trade by up to about 52.3%. Currently, intra-Africa trade is at around 14-15%. So that's quite a huge improvement. Now, the first step of the implementation, this, of course, is the first step of the implementation of the AU's 2063 vision for a more integrated Africa. And that certainly includes facilitating the movement of people and passports, and certainly that single air transport protocol agreement that we're expecting to come into force. But it will, like you mentioned earlier, Beatrice, facilitate the movement and the trade of 90% of goods and services across the continent. Now, as you mentioned, this is just the first stage of talks. The second stage of talks around this Continental Free Trade Area will deal with issues such as competition policy, intellectual property on the continent, as well as investment. Beatrice.
Right, Uche Okoronkwo on the line there from Rwanda.